Hello, bonjour, hola, soy Dora. Welcome to the podcast where good trivia gets rewarded and bad lies are punished. Maar salons fatty lies. This is What's the Fact.
Ek sê glad nie. My naam is Ryan Whittle en sy naam, even though you're a boy, it's sy.
Right.
If you were a girl, it would be haar naam.
It's very forward thinking of Afrikaans.
Sy naam is Warren Robertson. Welcome to the show.
It's the languages episode.
Languages. I can even say it. I can say bienvenue. No.
Bonjour.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
But that's good evening. Bonjour. It's just good day. Monsieur et madame, bienvenue de le podcast.
Yeah, I think in Afrikaans it's also podcast. The podcast. I didn't say Dumelang or Sawubona there. I should have said Dumelang and Sawubona to really kind of get in there and prove my South African credentials.
When a Afrikaans person walks into a game, then like, how much does the podcast?
Yeah, so this episode is about languages.
Oh yeah, it's lovely.
I mean, I don't know what languages means as a topic to you.
Yeah.
It was pretty generic.
It's one like, oh, languages, that should be interesting. What do they mean?
Yeah, what is language? What does it mean? I mean, listen, the stuff I've got lined up, cracking.
Yeah,
cracking,
I think it's
unbelievable,
quite interesting.
Unbelievable.
Interesting things coming up here. I love it. Yeah, because we can see the formation of a language over the era because you got written things. Like English just changed so much and went very weird, and even today it's changing a little.
Oh, are you focusing quite a lot on English as a language?
Hip hop, I am a little.
I suppose it makes sense. This is the one we speak as first language speakers, right?
Yeah.
You know what irritates that? So I was thinking while I was doing that intro, you see quite a lot of podcasts, international ones. Australians love it, New Zealanders love it, British people love it, to try and do South African accents. And they always try to do this one, you know. They're always like, South Africans, they all sound like this.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we've got 11 official languages, right? So let's kick this podcast off on this fact.
Ooh.
We've got 11 official languages, right?
Yes.
Which is the most in the world.
Hooray!
So like America's got something like 250 languages get spoken in America, but they've got one official language, being some version of English, which isn't quite English.
We've got a beautiful, progressive, uniting, inclusive constitution.
Exactly. Hey? Yeah, so we've got we should have a real firm understanding of languages here. But I think, and there's no like single South African accent. I want to put this out there to the international podcast community. There's no single South African accent. So every time you get on the internet and you try to do a South African accent with like, I went to the shops and then which you can't do anyway. But you're just messing it up. Just because those were the guys you met in Wimbledon in London doesn't mean the rest of us speak like this.
Leonardo in Blood Diamond. Well, this blood is soaking into the earth. Blood is earth red.
Was Val Kilmer in what was it? The Saint. The Saint.
Okay.
I have a farm in Africa. Who taught you this accent?
Do you, Shaka? I mean,
I have a farm in Africa. Do you? I now know why you had to descend into vanish off the A-list and become Fat Val Kilmer, because that alone was worth your absolute ousting from Hollywood. But yeah, these are real South African. These are heavy South African accents that we've got going here. But yeah, we're going to be talking about language and not just South African languages. As you say, you're gonna track quite a lot of the English history. I've had a bit of a look around, and I've tried to look at languages kind of holistically. And not just real languages either. But I want to start with something that actually I was inspired for this one because my son asked me this week. He said, "What's the oldest language?" My son is 6. He's 28. My son is 28. No, he's 6 years old.
It's a nice language. That's a nice question.
Yeah, it is a good question,
Clever
and I couldn't answer him. I didn't.
Sure.
And unlike most parents, I don't just make something up.
I would imagine.
I don't just. Oh yeah, no, that's Egyptian. Yeah, it's Egyptian. It's Mandarin Chinese. Because chances are he won't remember anyway. But I lie. My son remembers everything. which means I have to be on point with my facts, much like on.
You'll
on
come
this.
back at you.
Yeah, much like on here. But so I went away. I couldn't answer that for him now, and I went away, and I've answered it here. So one day, when his dad is dead, he can come on the internet and he can discover the answer to a question he had when he was 6 years old. Because I'm not going to tell him now. I'm not going to go back and tell him in the real world. He's going to have to watch the podcast like everyone else. He's going to have to click like and subscribe, share with his friends.
Nice.
Yeah.
Little Ash are cute.
Anyway, good. So what I want to talk about now is the oldest language, right? Obviously. And my fact is the oldest language is a language called Palaic. That's my fact.
Palaic.
Yeah, Palaic.
Oldest language. I mean, how on earth would they know? Palaic. Is it anything to do with what the region was called?
So it's a good question. How would they know? And I think it's something that I probably need to clarify here for you, because they don't know for sure.
Oh, okay.
What they have is they've got sources. So when they say, "Oh, that's the oldest language," what they say is, "Oh, well, it's probably the oldest language." What we're working based on, here is a source. The source is X years old. In some cases, they've got languages where they go, well, the source is this old, but the source actually refers to older texts. They talk about the language being centuries old in this particular source.
Okay.
So we then have to assume that they have in fact been speaking this language for centuries before. So it can get a little kind of gray area-ish. But what I'm speaking about is quite specifically, this is the language that most people who study these things would say this is the language that's most likely the oldest.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's probably sounded like a Cornet and Twaki joke. Like the one when I went to their show and they're making a mixture for the poor guy on stage to down or to drink, and he's like a bit of stony ginger beer. And then he goes, and then we've got the famous root of the knick-knack plant. But he's just putting in knick-knacks in the guy's knick-knack. It's probably got words like knick-knack. Knick-knack.
Wow, that's super racist against this ancient Palaic. Like your forefathers probably spoke this language.
It was Welsh. I think it was Welsh. I think that's the
You think Welsh is the oldest language?
It's the oldest language in the world. It is.
So one of the oldest languages definitely is kind of Gaelic, because it originates with the Celts. So it is definitely in Europe one of the oldest languages that we know about. So perhaps Welsh has got some claims. Maybe there's something in there.
I've never heard of this fact, but I have no reason to think that it might not be true. Palaic, I'll say that your fact is generally correct, based on as best as we can muster in the world of paleontology. No, anthropology.
Stuff. Language, etymology.
Etymology.
I don't know. But
true.
No, I started with a Ryanism. It's a lie.
Bugger.
Palaic.
Yeah.
We've got cuneiform tablets from the Bronze Age Hattusa, which is circa 16th century BC. So 1,600 years BC. But there are many languages that are older than that. Hurrian, for example. We've got the oldest proof of Hurrian is from 2,100 years ago. The oldest form of Egyptian, 2,690 years, 90 BC.
As in BC. I think when you said 2,100 years ago, I think you meant 2,100 BC. Yes.
2,100 BC. Yeah, sorry.
Sure.
2,690 BC is Egyptian. Then about 3,000 years BC is Akkadian. Also 3,000 years BC, Elamite. We've got Hittite from 1,700 years BC. Mycenaean Greek, which is about 1,500 years BC, 1,450 years BC. And these are just the extinct languages. There are, in fact, living languages. There's modern Greek, which is 3,400 years old at the moment. So also from about 1,500 BC. Coptic Egyptian, they reckon, is 2,200 years old. It's actually dying out. There's very few people that actually speak that. Then you've got Sanskrit, spoken today still in India.
Wow. Yes.
Roughly 3,500 years old.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then Sumerian is the oldest language that we can say, listen, this is definitely, we can date this thing, 3,500 BC Sumerian. It was gradually replaced by Akkadian and as a spoken language by 2000 BC, but it was in fact spoken for centuries beforehand, and even in 2000 BC, it was being spoken as a ceremonial language. So yeah, about 3,500 BC is what we've got oldest proofs, right? So we've got tablets from then, from around Iraq. It's called the Kish tablet. It's about 3,500 BC. So that's Sumerian. But there are some who claim that Tamil may be the world's oldest religion.
Language.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, language rather than religion. Because there are some who claim that it would range from between about 5,320 BC to 8th century CE, somewhere around there. So 5,320 BC, they say. So that could be the oldest it could be, if that's true, and it's spoken, to this day.
I think a lot of the Durban community in Indian community in South Africa and in Durban would consider themselves Tamil.
Okay. Tamil spoken in India and Sri Lanka mainly. But there's still 83 million speakers. And as I say, so there's no proof for this. What there is with Tamil is there's some very old tablets. And then those tablets do talk about even older tablets or older things that may have happened. And so the earliest predicted date that it could have been around was 5,320 BC, but the most recent is 8th century CE. So
that's a hell of a range.
It could be, it's some 6,000 years. So really, that's a very general. We've got a very general sort of a thing there. There's no definitive answer. So generally, Sumerian is the answer. Generally, Sumerian is considered the oldest language.
It's a funny thing, and it's a scary thing. I mean, the Romans ruled a lot of the known world back then, and Latin's gone. It's gone. Well, it's ritualistic in some Catholic ceremonies, hey?
Essentially, that's what it is. It's now a dead language that many people speak. In legal societies, a lot of
words
lawyers
have come through. Yeah,
but a lot of lawyers had to learn Latin to try and understand the legal languages. So it's no longer a requirement in South Africa. I don't know if there's other parts of the world where it's still necessary to know Latin, but in South Africa it's not. But yeah, it's literally now what Sumerian was when Akkadian took over in 2000 BC. It's this kind of ritual language that people only really use like periodically to sound fancy.
Yeah. That's a nice fact. It's a lovely opening
fact.
It's
as I say, it's and I did Ryan it a bit. I apologize for that.
No, not at all.
No.
Wait till this next one.
Oh, really? Are you gonna? No, I did Ryan it a bit. I didn't intend to Ryan it. I wanted a real fact. But it's difficult. It's difficult when you've got a real fact based on an arbitrary timeline.
Hey,
to lie about it.
History will be gracious and merciful to you. Do not worry. And our viewers and our subscribers, they're such nice people.
They are nice people. Yeah.
Don't get a lot of hate. We want more hate.
No, I want more of anything. I don't care what I get, as long as it's just attention. As long as it's like click liking and subscribing, that's good enough for me. So that little dopamine kick in my brain,
We were in that origin of languages thing and the oldest language thing, and these poor people, these poor linguists, these cunning linguists, they got quite a job on their hands. But it turns out that all languages in the world can somehow be traced back to families. A similar sounding
people in
thing.
Families used to speak. You don't mean families of people. You mean families of languages. Like you get the Latin languages, which are like Italian and Spanish, and
like a branch. Yeah, but then it would
Germanic
go back
languages, which are like German, and Dutch and Norwegian. And, right.
So it's like it's an umbrella with a lot of languages underneath it, and I think even Indo-European is actually one.
Yeah, so that would be
original, massive
branch,
crazy. My fact is the family group of languages with the most languages underneath it is actually proudly African and is called the Niger Congo family. That one has the most
Is this
languages
Orionism? You did warn me it
underneath
might be
it.
Orionism.
Might be.
You have gotten better at lying, Ryan. I'll give you that. This podcast has taught you how to lie, which is good if you ever want to do a murder. You know, if you ever think about doing a
Oh,
murder.
yeah.
Are you thinking about doing a murder?
I can't say right now.
Oh no, I believe you. No, I think you're talking nonsense. I think you're lying. I think
You're not being proudly African, man.
What? He did a Jamaican accent. Oh, you're such a mess as a human being.
Diaspora. Hey,
Oh,
man.
you are so cancelled.
Zion, come on.
You are so cancelled. I know Buster Beer in Pretoria. He's going to cancel you. Look,
Is he the
yeah, he's very
Rastafarian?
woke. He's very woke.
Oh, nice.
No, he's not a Rastafarian.
Buster
Christo de Beer. Yeah, no, he's not. He's a regular listener.
All right, sweet.
So he'll enjoy this little shout out. It's not just about you, Michelle.
Yes. Sit down, Michelle.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think it's that. I think it's probably India. I would guess is probably got. I mean, India's
like
got hundreds of
Indo-European.
language.
Ooh,
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
as you say, that Indo-European is basically every language in Europe, all the all the Middle Eastern ones.
Yeah.
I
I mean, how far did it stretch to? Was there a correlation between the Chinese and the Indian languages eventually? Because massive amounts of people in that area of the world.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the amount of people that speak it, right? We're talking about the number of languages. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and the one thing China's famous for is that it's very few languages.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's got 2 languages, Cantonese and Mandarin.
Yeah.
So amongst 1 billion people, because they,
dialects but who knows? But yeah, I know about Cantonese and Mandarin as being.
Oh, what you're saying is there might be others, but they're not
that's
officially
the thing
sanctioned.
is, when does it become a language, and when does it just become a dialect, or when does it become those funny people talk
so
like
you get
that?
You get that discussion about like Scottish, right? Like Scotch.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the people who speak Scotch would swear that it's a totally different language, and when you definitely as an English speaker would not understand a word they're saying.
I thought you got
I think what you're just doing is a drunken Glaswegian, but I'm like, yeah, but you're right. There is a point where guys do have their own individual languages, and at what point does it become a language? Because also there's something like 8,000 languages in the world at the moment.
Yes,
of which I think almost 3,000 are officially considered dying.
Right.
As in they've got fewer than 1,000 speakers.
Shucks.
So, yeah, I mean, South Africa's got a language that only one person speaks. She wrote a book in it, a children's book in it. Yeah, and she's been given an award and whatever. But I think there's now a dictionary that she's worked on for it. So, it's going to be around. Just nobody's going to speak it, which is all good. Because she's about 90 years old.
Okay.
I mean,
wow.
Huge kudos to her for putting her.
Yeah, sure.
For putting her language down onto paper.
Shit.
Yeah, there was a language in.
Do you know where it leans? Is it sort of
it's Khoi. It's kind of like a
Okay.
Yeah, there was a language in Central America once where the last 2 speakers hated each other. So they never spoke it to each other because they were enemies, arch enemies, which is quite humorous. But yeah, we got like 3,000 languages that are imminently going to die, and then 6,000 others that are thriving, I suppose. And it's become a big movement now in a lot of places to try and teach people their local language and get them speaking. I know in Cornwall, for instance, they've got their own language. That had been dying out, that now they've been doing this big drive to get people to speak it again and to try and I mean, there's little islands that have got languages that,
my word,
they're all making it compulsory for the young to learn how to speak these languages to try and keep them alive.
Yeah. I mean, when President Ramaphosa opened his first parliament, he had a Khoi praise singer. which was really nice.
Yeah, that's a person, not a fish.
It's
very important.
Very shy praising.
Yeah, for people who aren't from South Africa, for people who are from South Africa, it's not like a giant goldfish. Ceremonial giant. He had a ceremonial giant goldfish.
It
And he brought
speaks.
a-
The fish bowl.
Yeah.
We shall now drink the sacred fish bowl. Bring your straws, members of parliament.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, there's a move at the moment because Khoi is not one of South Africa's 11 official languages,
Oh.
even though the national slogan
the
is
coat
written
of
in
arms.
Khoi, on the
Yes,
coat
yes,
of arms.
yes. Which is out of the many one or one of those things.
Yeah.
Unity, diversity.
Right. So there's a big call to have it become a national language, and then there's also a call to have sign language become a national language,
All right.
which is exciting. It
I
means
think
we-
it's great. I love it.
Yeah, it means we would go to 13. Ha!
Yeah.
Ha! Take that.
Top
Anybody?
that.
Yeah, trying to chase us down.
You Indo-Chinese Europeans.
Yeah. You're British. You're Americans.
Palaics.
I mean, Americans have got an enormous Spanish
Sure.
community that they just will not recognize. Never mind the native population.
You're
Anyway, where were we? We
You
were
want
just got
some-
completely
you want
sidetracked.
some
here.
red state hate coming our way? Is that what you want?
I do. Why do you have to make America great again if it's not shit now? Yeah.
True or false,
you're
eh? Dun, 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 dun.
It's false. It's false.
Oh, no, you're wrong. Damn. Niger Congo is language family spoken over the majority of sub-Saharan Africa. It unites the Mande languages, the Atlantic Congo languages, which share a characteristic noun class system, and possibly several smaller groups of languages that are difficult to classify. If valid, Niger Congo would be the world's largest in terms of member languages. The
So
third
what you're
largest.
saying is if added. Hang on. Where are
If
you reading
valid.
this from? If added. So it's not
No, if
actually an
valid.
official.
Family group.
Not
This
actually an
stuff
offi-
is.
What you're saying is
Well,
it's not officially a
it's got-
family group
listen,
at the moment.
It's got the most. Yeah, listen, let
So
me carry on.
essentially,
No, it
because
is.
it hasn't been added.
No, if valid.
Oh, if valid. If valid.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's not a valid family group.
No, none of them are. If valid, Niger Congo would be the world's largest in terms of member languages, the third largest in terms of speakers, and Africa's largest in terms of geographical area. It is generally considered to be the world's largest language family in terms of the number of distinct languages, just ahead of Austronesian,
Fair enough.
although this is complicated by the ambiguity about what constitutes a distinct language. Hey, it's this moving target.
I'm glad they included Austro in the Austronesian because obviously Australia has got two official languages. They've got English and Boggin. Boggin is throw us a tinny, mate.
I'm going to catch you back in Dugan on the old back Gravadubin.
That's right.
The Gravadubin? Yeah, it's next to the Shimadingo. The Shimadingo.
I'm going to get my miming to touch my wanga wanga.
The fine little
I
fact.
challenge any Australian to tell us that their South African accent is better than that.
The number of named Niger Congo languages listed by Ethnologue is 1,540.
That's a lot of languages.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, given that there's only 5,000 odd languages that are surviving and thriving, to have 1,540 of them under one banner is
well,
pretty,
yeah.
pretty sizable.
Those anthropologists must be working their balls off. Sorry, what did you say? Sounds a bit different. What did you say? What is he? What you mean? You mean this? The bread?
I don't
Bread?
think they leave it up
That's
to people from the
different.
British Museum anymore, Ryan. I think the people themselves compare their languages and define the differences. Sort of like you've got the Xhosa and the Zulu. There's a lot of similarities, but it's defined difference. You know, like there's a defined difference. It's two separate languages.
Yeah.
So I think that wasn't determined by a British guy with a clipboard.
Yeah.
Oh, I say.
Say that again, old chap. Old boy, says again.
I say, when you bow to our queen, you sound awfully different to those other fellas. I don't think that's how it's done anymore. Almost certainly that's how it was done at some point in history, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's my fact.
Good.
Yeah,
It's a
man.
good fact. Oh, so when you say that's my fact, does that mean please start talking about your fact
Well,
immediately?
but you mentioned before the show began that you did take Zulu at school.
I did. I took Zulu at school, and you know, like I learned some of it. Like I got a lot of words in my head, but can I speak it? Not really. And my Zulu teacher at the time, she was like, one day you're going to regret not paying attention. And because, like, not to me specifically, but to like the whole class. And because I was like 14, I was like, I'll never regret anything. Life is great. I know everything already. I don't need this. She's right. I regret deeply not actually learning it at the time. But yeah.
Because I've been so captivated by the Shaka Zulu series, but the one from 1986. Wow, it's on Netflix now. Man,
is this
it's so
old
good.
one out?
Yeah, I couldn't stop watching. I'm a weird chap. I'm not saying everyone's gonna dig it like me, but I couldn't switch it off, man.
And it's on Netflix.
Yes. And Henry Tsele, his performance, his casting.
Yeah,
there's some magic in that.
You know, the thing is when I think back, because this came out in 1980s in South Africa, I was a child.
Yeah.
And there's something about that performance that I remember, and I haven't seen it since then.
It's incredible.
It must be good. It must be good.
His performance is because it's almost like history looks back at Shaka as this sort of entity, almost a force, more than just like Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
And he embodies this weird sort of alien presence. It's frightening and formidable. So you're frightened of him, but you admire him, and his whole presence and his voice and his performance is amazing. You know.
Yeah, they're making a new one though, aren't they?
Yes, I think it's called Shaka Ilembe, and I think it's on either Showmax or DSTV. But they got big shoes to fill, or sandals. Well, that's controversial.
No, Shaka famously did not like the sandals, right? Like he didn't like the sandals. Anyway, we're getting distracted.
It's you also now.
All right, so my fact is the language of cavemen is still spoken in some parts of Europe. It's my fact. Right there, have at you.
Oh, that's a ridiculous fact. It's got to be a lot of absolute bollocks. I mean, it's funny. I mean, firstly, how would they know what they spoke? And then these oaks are like, no, it's us. Yeah, the Krugersdorp caves. Okay. No, but except in Serbia, or some drunken Serbian is going, come here, I'll show you this bar we go to. It's got cavemen speaking. No, it's got to be it's a nice try. No, there's no ways you'd know that. There is no ways, unless it's some weird class from university who for those tonight we're going to talk cave.
We're going to learn cave person.
Yeah, and if you get it wrong, you're down a shooter.
Sign up for Neanderthal. Neanderthal 101. No,
I'm going to say definitely false. Nice try there. I like the funniness. I like the comedy element. It's fun. But definitely false.
I mean, it's true.
No.
Yeah, and here, let me tell you a story.
Yes, no.
All right. Have you heard about the Basque country?
Spain.
Yeah. Well, yeah, northern Spain, bordering
Okay.
Western Pyrenees, bordering France and Spain, on the Bay of Biscay.
Okay.
So historians believe the Basque have their own unique language.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely unique. It cannot be tied to any other European language in any way. And historians believe that it's the language of that local area, and that it's almost certainly the language that was being spoken by the people who etched the drawings in the Altmera, Ekain, and Lascaux caves, because it's very much from that kind of area. So there are historians that believe that this thing has derived from there, and it's just been maintained because for centuries the Basque managed to stop themselves from being invaded. They survived invasions by the Romans, the Visigoths, the Arabs, the French, the Spanish. It wasn't until the Middle Ages, 1476 to 1450, that the Spaniards, the Gascons, and the Catalans took over the area. In 1516, the Basques on the Spanish side of the Pyrenees agreed to be part of Spain as long as they could govern themselves, and they've maintained this language. And
My word.
then under General Franco, it was forbidden to speak Basque, and you had to start speaking local language, and the language nearly died out. But the Basques, like we were saying earlier in the podcast, have now got this really strong drive to bring it back, and everybody at school is speaking it. But yeah, the language
Jeez.
is called Euskera. It is the oldest living language in Europe. As I say, officially the origins are unknown because it literally cannot be tied to any other language. It's entirely separate. But the historians are like, well, it's the language that's been spoken in this area for millennia. I mean, they literally say that it dates back to kind of Neolithic times, and there's evidence that it could be even older than that. So you're looking at basically the seeds of articulate language in Basque. But yeah, currently it's spoken by 37% of Basque people. They, as I say, they have this big drive now where
It's not
all the
not
kids
a bad
at school,
amount.
yeah. But they've got a big drive
amount.
now where all the kids at school have to learn it. So they're hoping by 2036 that basically everyone under a certain age will speak this language. But yeah, I mean, this is a kind of an Ice Age language. There was a German linguist, and I'm gonna read his quote here. His name's Theo Veneman. He's a professor at the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, and he says all languages have their origins somewhere, probably in German though. All the languages have their origins somewhere. Sometimes we do not know where, but in this period we are referring to here, Euskera came from nowhere else. It was already there at the time other languages arrived. So considered, Euskera is the oldest language in Europe. The rest are foreign languages coming from the East, along with the powerful people that imposed their ways of speaking on the natives. Euskera is the only survivor of the European language family.
Very nice.
Yeah.
German professor, very nice. For a slight moment that you jumped over the border into the Netherlands, but then
You're right. I did. I felt myself doing that. Very, very Australian podcaster of me. But yeah, so it's this unique, and in fact, the Basques have a unique culture. They've got your own unique traditions, their own unique gods, their own unique mythological creatures. They really are. They're a standalone kind of race, and people speak. People are Basque on both sides of the Pyrenees. So there are people in France who speak the language, and people in Spain who speak the language. I mean, it's an exciting part of the world. And if you want a place to go and travel to that's interesting, Basque country,
it's amazing.
Good.
So the Pyrenees, like they would have had like same language but two people groups, and it's like, this year, Oaks, the party's at their place. Let's all pull in. Next year we're hosting. It's a bit like Pucca versus Bloemfontein University.
You know what it reminded me of quite a lot was Lesotho.
Yeah.
Because like Lesotho, I love Lesotho. Like Lesotho, basically they had this mountain kingdom, right?
Have you been?
Yeah.
Nice.
So they had this mountain kingdom, right? That they lived on top of a mountain king. The colonialists came and were like, fuck. These oaks live on the top of the mountain. We can't conquer them.
Yeah.
Like it's very hard to get our troops up there. It's very hard to get anything up there. And then the Sotho came and went, listen, we aren't gonna fuck you guys up. Just go around us, give us our independence. Particularly, go fuck up those Zulu. If you would fuck up the Zulu for us, we're chill. Just give us our own country. And the Basques sound very much like they handled their diplomacy the same way, And like people just kept coming at them and they were like, listen, we're a mountain people. Leave us the fuck alone. We're not interested in your shit. Like just leave it. And they've survived. To this day, Lesotho is surrounded by South Africa. Like it's a country that stands alone and has its own independence because of that sort of diplomacy.
Yes, brilliant.
Leave us the fuck alone. We're just chilling up here. Relax. Like it's fine.
So is that a thing? Mountain people tend to be sort of left alone.
No, but I think it's also because they got the high ground. It's very difficult to attack a mountain fortress.
No, you just have to throw the stone at the dude trying to climb up.
Yeah, you just literally roll rocks down there. Fuck you. Yeah, very, very easy to defend the mountain kingdom. I mean, probably Tibetans will argue that I'm wrong about this, but But traditionally, a mountain kingdom has been easy to defend. Yeah. So anyway, I'm definitely planning a trip to the Basque Country.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I wonder
and
what the food's like.
I mean, so again,
it's fine. I'll
they
eat
do have
whatever they
specific.
give.
They do have specific dishes like versions of paella and these sorts of things that are,
golly.
but that are unique. You know, like they've got foods that are unique to their culture. So
goat, eh? Bit of goats. Bit of mountain goat.
why do you assume just because somebody lives in a mountain they have to eat a fucking goat?
Hey,
maybe they eat people, Ryan. Like, have a bit of creativity. You know, like,
maybe they eat Catalonians.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll teach you guys for not conquering us. We'll eat you one at a time. All right, my turn. And I did say we're going to move from the Basque Country. I'm afraid we're going to have to go a little bit north.
Tragic. I'm enjoying the trip there.
We're going to have to swim across the English Channel, I'm afraid. And I have to take you back in your time machine as well. You have to go back all the way to 1611. What was happening in England?
I mean, Elizabethan England, right?
I'm afraid she died.
Has she already died?
Yeah. And
when did she die?
Don't know.
You don't know?
Maybe early 1600s. Because who was next and what did he do? What big project?
James the First.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the old King James version of
the Bible, right.
Yes, the Bible. We're bringing the Bible. Bless you, Warren. The only time you get exposed to the Bibles on the podcast when I read your scripture. And
normally people get exposed to a lot more than the Bible at church.
Oh my. What was I saying? So here's a simple fact. Psalm 46 of the King James Version was written by William Shakespeare.
What's Psalm 46? Let me hear it.
Well, I tell you what, I will give it to you.
Okay.
After you guessed, because there's a funny little
give it away?
But my fact is they know for sure. Psalm 46,
sure.
Yeah, written by William Shakespeare. I mean, you know a bit about the King James Project. Took many years, and serious professionals, about up to 300 people working on things, translating things, and all of that.
So obviously at the time, like one of the things that King Henry was the VIII,
yes,
was kind of convinced about was creating a Bible for local people. It was Thomas Cromwell was a big proponent of create a Bible for everybody. You got to, you know, and it took a very, very, very long time. But obviously, the King James Bible was the first one that really like.
Yes, there was a Tyndale version, but I believe that was the New Testament, maybe Psalms and Proverbs, but was based on the Latin Vulgate. But what the King James version was Old Testament Hebrew straight into
I'm very
English.
disappointed with King James because he was King James of Scotland first. You know, I mean, he was King James the Sixth of Scotland, and he became King James the First of England. And I'm so disappointed he didn't do it in Scotch. Aye, and he did come down from the mountain, pissed as a lord. Pissed as a laird, sorry. Pissed as a laird. And he did say unto the people, "Aye, you wee raj cunts."
Thou shalt not son against your mother or your father. I'll clout you across the head.
You hold your waist or you get a beating. There should have been a lot more of that in the King James Bible. I would have been impressed with that. Did Shakespeare write it? I mean, why would he be involved in that? Why? Why would he do that? I mean, it's such a lovely fact. I hope it's true.
Maybe there's money going. Hey, there was a bit of money going as a writer. Maybe it was the down season.
Oh, fuck. The last play didn't hit so hard.
They are asking me just to do Psalm 46. And they're offering...
No, I probably shouldn't have done King Henry II or whatever it was. I should have gone back. I knew I should have gone back to the Titus Andronicus and milked that material instead of these...
Oh, yes. No, I think that would have made money, eh? Ooh, that was nasty.
Yeah, but the later ones, he got paid by the royal family to document their history, right? So you know, that stuff was a lot more money than selling five penny tickets to the plebs in the
Right,
in the
yeah.
peanut
And
gallery.
they
you know?
loved a bit of Titus
Exactly.
is
Exactly. Oh
vicious.
yeah. Oh yeah. But so as you say, now he's retired to Stratford upon Avon. His old wife is probably dead, and they come to him and they're like, "Listen, mate, we need something really poetic. This is a very important psalm, because I'm assuming it is an important psalm.
I think it is lovely.
This is a very important psalm, Willie. We need you. We need you to write this. I don't really do psalms. I'm more of the, shall I compare thee to a summer's day type of a bloke.
Yeah. Well, bring some of that. Bring some of that to the
Is
psalms.
that how this opens?
Well,
Shall I compare thee to a Moses tablet? Yes, all right. He wrote it.
well, they're not sure. There's the old rhinisms that they're not sure, but they suspect, man. And then people say, no, this is a lot of nonsense. But then there's like, hang on a second. There's this one little piece of interesting tidbit.
One interesting piece of tidbit.
So there was a version called the Coverdale's version, and so the King James was based off of the Coverdale version in its progression of that particular psalm, and in the word shake is, so he was in 1611 when it was done. He was 46 years old. And the 46th word of the psalm
I've still
is
got a couple of years. I can be there. I could write the New King James Bible.
Sure. So the 46th word of the psalm is the word shake. And
as in Sheikh Mohammed.
Yeah.
Or like to shake the baby.
Shake the earth, I think. I'm gonna read it
not
to you.
shake the baby.
46 words from the end is the word spear. And he was 46 in 1611 when it was done. And they think that this sort of Renaissance coding was very much alive and well. The word shake is a 46. Yeah, giving it you right. Puts a spear and a 46 word from the end. And it goes like this. It's quite nice. Here's your bit of scripture, because you only get it like twice a year or so.
Maybe he was just a fan of Shakespeare.
Maybe. Because God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. Selah. That's Hebrew, meaning stop, breathe, rest. I'm not sure what it means. There is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. The heathen raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Come, behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow, and he cutteth the spear.
Nonsense, isn't it? I mean, it's just nonsense. And like,
well,
Shakespeare,
the Renaissance coding was a big thing back then. Put the code in there. 46. He's 46 at 1611. Ooh.
I mean, you sound like a Taylor Swift fan. Like Taylor Swift fans are all like, what is Taylor trying to tell us with her new album? What message is she sending us with her latest tweet? Like, oh my word, Taylor turned 28 this year and she's releasing this album and perhaps we're going to see this thing, and they connect all the codes. That sounds like that sort of drivel. Honestly, like the one thing about Shakespeare.
Shake the earth.
The one thing about Shakespeare.
Cutteth the spear.
Yes, but let me tell you something about Shakespeare is that he was always very good with language and very clear about his meaning. And that is just words strung. It's word soup. That's nonsense. It means nothing. It means nothing. Why would they hire him to do this one psalm? He either wrote the whole thing or he did nothing.
Yeah, so...
I'm a writer. I'll tell you what. Somebody comes to me and they're like, "Hey, do you want to write 2 psalms? It's $200." I'm like, "Why aren't you getting me to do the whole fucking book?"
I think if I dig deeper into did he, didn't he, I think you'll have quite a few learned folks on both sides of the great fence.
I think it was a fan of William Shakespeare.
That's the theory. That is the theory that I read, because it's a monumental project, and he's by this stage probably retired but a rock star.
Retired at 46.
Yeah, I think
I won't retire by 76.
The Tempest was his last one, and I think he's in that place of early 40s, around there. Hey, And
just falling apart. Like, he should have killed himself at 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, like great artists really should.
Yeah, it just hasn't done the dishes for weeks. A fat belly, there's crumbs all over his things.
Yeah, he's all Ben Elton at this stage. Ben Elton in the 80s was prolific. Young Ones, Blackadder, like it was just like a machine of comedy. And now he releases these kind of pallid books. And you're like, oh, just quit, like William Shakespeare, Ben Elton. Just quit. Leave your.
I listened to the one about a rock band. What was it called? I listened to the one audiobook, High Society or something like that. Yeah. Because high as in the weed. I think it was Ben Elton. High Society. Does it ring a bell?
It's possible.
I think he's telling a sort of story of like Oasis and those.
Anyway, I mean, Ben Elton, he's done a lot of these kind of. Some of them have been all right. Chart Throb was okay. It was a kind of a piss take of the reality. But my point is that William Shakespeare was at that stage of his career where he wasn't writing anymore. He wasn't writing good stuff, but he still had to pay the bills.
Yeah,
he was at the Ben Elton stage of his life, and somebody came to him with a Bible. Say, hey, listen. You don't even have to be good.
Yeah.
Just write the shit that's on the thing. Yeah. And he was like, sure. Give me the 200 quid. I'll write
Maybe it was 30 pieces of silver.
Put my own name in it. Yeah. Like, I don't care.
Take the piss. Yeah. Shake the earth and cut it the spear, man. Yes.
I mean, honestly, you could find those words. The people who read that stuff into the Bible, like the code words and the Dan Browns. Damaged people. Dan Brown.
I think he made a bucket of money though. Hey, let's start decoding stuff, bro, and make a murder mystery.
You
about
write
it.
This bullshit theory as a historical novel, you will make a fortune.
Shakespeare wrote the Bible.
Shakespeare wrote the Bible. Yeah.
There's your title.
He had to keep explaining to King James I. Sir, please. We can't use the phrase "we rag cunt."
But I said, do it. No.
You bring me another pint. I'm not interested in this shite. What's this shakes the world of the spear? You're putting your own name in this. I want my name all over it. Yes, but we're going to call it the King James Bible, even though it's the William Shakespeare Bible. Yeah, all right. Whatever.
No one's going to read it anyway.
Yeah. I've already got the Elizabethan Bible and Henry VIII Bible. Who gives a shite? I don't care. Put your fucking name there. I don't give a shit.
Man, I do believe it's your turn.
No, it is definitely my turn. And I want to talk to you. I'm going to stay in the British Isles.
Oh, nice.
For a fact that maybe you've heard this before. More people speak Klingon than Welsh. And if you don't know what Klingon is the language of the Klingon people of Star Trek. More people speak Klingon than speak Welsh. That's my fact. The made-up language for Star Trek.
No, man. Well, okay, Welsh I know is the only time I hear it is at the end of Bread of Heaven is one of my favorite.
I was about to say when a choir sings a song.
Bread of Heaven. And they sometimes open a Welsh rugby match at Cardiff with like Bread of Heaven. And I think they'll throw in a few Welsh lines at the end.
Oh, look, the Welsh, they love a choir.
Yeah.
But it's also like, just because they're singing in Welsh, do they speak it? I mean, I remember my school, and I went to a very posh English private school. We used to do a lot of songs in Zulu. We'd learn all of those songs. And this was, to their credit, this was during the height of apartheid.
Yeah, back in the day.
We would do
progressive school.
But we'd do all the songs in Zulu. And as I've already clarified on this podcast, I do not speak Zulu. But this didn't stop us from, I sing the national anthem. And I know all the words to Nkosi Sikeleli. But I don't speak enough Zulu to judge. Just because you sing a thing doesn't mean you speak the language, is essentially what I was saying.
Sure. Yeah, but Klingon, man. Come on. And I know... Prince Charles is the Prince of Wales. I got this from the Crown. Yeah. I got this from the Crown.
Prince William is the Prince of Wales.
Yes. When Prince Charles was the Prince of Wales, then he gave a few speeches in Welsh. being the Prince of Wales.
No.
And he was taught Welsh by, as part of his punishment as a teenager.
Part of his punishment.
He had to go to Wales for a bit and actually get taught Welsh.
Oh, well, I mean, that's good. Did they send him to Klingon to learn to learn Klingon?
So I do think there's villages where they would speak it and stuff.
No, they definitely are. They definitely are.
And so no,
But what
your fact is
my
a lie.
fact is that there are so many American community colleges offering Klingon as a subject that, in fact, now more people speak Klingon than speak Welsh.
No, it's just nonsense. It's some frat party. No, that's not an actual language. It's like playing Quidditch at university. I'm sure it happens. Lovely Quidditch. It was in Pitch Perfect.
No, you're right. They do.
In the one scene of Pitch Perfect, they're playing Quidditch in the background. That's how much I love Pitch Perfect. Yeah. But no, it's not a real thing. But nice try. Lie.
So in fact, you're absolutely correct.
Yay.
But what's so nice about you being correct is that it's known across the internet that more people speak Klingon than Welsh.
What?
Yeah, it's a fact. Like it's a
fact?
thing that it's a thing that people quote to each other.
Oh.
They say more people speak Klingon than Welsh. More people speak Klingon than Welsh, and it isn't true. I went and I because of this, because it is one of those things that people share online. I went and I did some research. Turns out it originates from a joke on The Onion, who said that there were more Klingon speakers in America than Navajo speakers.
Oh my word!
Yeah. And ultimately, what happened is that an author looked at that particular joke and took it way too seriously. Her name was Arika Okrant. And she went away, I mean, probably Navajo herself. She went away and she sort of researched the thing. And she discovered there's only really a few dozen fluent Klingon speakers. Because Klingon is a language. It's like a defined language. Yeah, it's been worked out on that kind of level that, if you avoid certain topics and whatever, you can hold a hello, how are you? How is this going? Kind of conversation with somebody in Klingon. She actually went to a gathering of Klingon speakers. And there were only 20 people at the conference, whereas 100,000 people speak Navajo. But somewhere between 100 and 200,000 people speak Navajo.
That's wonderful.
So she went and she said, no, this is absolutely not true. But in the meantime, the internet had morphed it, this fact, to being that more people spoke Klingon than speak Welsh. So she'd done all her research. She was like, And they were like, yeah, but that's not what we were saying. We were saying more people speak it than speak Welsh. And also, at the same time, the Welsh had been making a big drive to bring their language back, and they'd been trying to teach it to people. And listen, Welsh never really reached that point where it was nearly about to die out. Let me be absolutely clear about that. But they'd also gone on a drive where they started teaching it at schools, and people became kind of proud of their national heritage. And now 562,000 people said that they speak Welsh on the latest census in Britain. So, in fact, whereas fluent Klingon speakers, there's about 20 of them. And it is taught in community colleges, some community colleges and universities in America.
That's crazy.
It's vastly outnumbered by people who speak Welsh. So if you are on the internet and you are sharing this particular
But they do teach it in some classes.
They do share. They do teach it, but very few people take it up, obviously. Okay. I think it's the kind of thing where you maybe take a year, can't really speak it. You never learn to be fluent in it. And you can say a few phrases or a few words or whatever.
See, imagine your parents take out a student loan and
it's like an easy credit.
Come back in the holidays. What are you doing?
Muck. Sorry, what did you just say? Was that Welsh? No. Anyway, but yeah, so internet, you could officially consider this one debunked.
Nice.
More people speak Welsh than speak Klingon. Yeah.
Nice. You did a thing. What was that TV show where they destroyed myths? Mythbusters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's very cool. I'll stay in the English Isles with you, and I'll go to the very beginning of English. Geoffrey Chaucer, the Canterbury Tales, is generally thought to have been in the first sort of written book in English, and it contains
in like modern English, because I know the earliest kind of work in English was Beowulf.
Yeah, but that's hardly English.
No, I mean,
From
but it's
England.
considered English. I mean, it's considered English, but it's like a poem.
Yeah.
So I suppose
that's
it's not.
right,
Maybe
yeah.
is it not written, or was it a
Well, this is
an oratory thing? But anyway, but no, you're right.
Canterbury Tales
Canterbury
is a
Tales.
lovely little story about 30,
It's not a lovely little story. It's a filthy story,
30 pilgrims walking to Canterbury.
and 50% of them tell stories about sex.
It's
It's a pretty raunchy book, is what it is.
so they all tell 2 stories each, and so the Canterbury Tales is made up of 60 stories. Yeah, that's my fact.
Oh, I don't know.
Do they tell a story on the way
No,
there?
they tell one. No, they tell one.
And then
story.
they tell a story on the way
They
back.
tell one story. It's like the chef's, the cook's story, or
the knight's
bishop's
tale,
story,
the
or the
miller's
knight's tale.
tale.
Yeah.
And the one, you're right about the 6. No problem, eh?
no, filth. I mean,
The
that's
one is like-
wall to wall dirt.
Yeah, the one is like there's some dude who married a younger woman, but he just kind of neglected her, and then she was climbing a tree to pick apples, and then some other dude thought he'd go help her pick apples, and while they're standing in the tree, they thought they'd have a bit of a dalliance,
Like in the tree.
bit of a tryst. Yeah,
In
and
the
then
tree.
he was walking out, going, "Where's me apples? Where's me wife? I can't find her." And meantime, his wife is having a dalliance right above his head in a tree
Filthy.
with a chap.
Scandal. I mean, you know what the thing is?
neighbor or
It's
something.
like if Barry
Oh, that
Hilton,
was so
like
funny.
if Barry Hilton's book survived, is some kind of like, like archaic kind of thing that like for 5,000 years from now, they're like, this is a significant work of South African cultural identity. Is Barry Hilton's book of jokes, and this is what every South African would have read back in the day. They would have all read it, and they all would have enjoyed these particular clips about women's fannies.
Hey, my cousin. They were all related.
They all
Hey,
were
my
related to each
cousin.
other. They all called each other cousin. It's very, very important for the etymology of the era. Yeah, I mean that's largely what this book kind of strikes me as. It's almost like it's like, you know, those stories that people used to write into porno magazines in the 80s. You know, like the Hustler Corner or the Penthouse letters.
Oh,
You know? You know, it's like Chaucer collected 30 penthouse letters,
Yeah.
and then he sold millions of copies of his smutty book. And that's why it survived, because he sold millions. It's like if Dan Brown survived, because there's just a sheer volume of his garbage like that. I mean, it's, you know. So yeah, nonsense. It was one story for each person.
Okay, you'll get the point because it's nonsense. But sadly, here's what the plan was, and it even states that in the beginning, that everyone's going to tell 4 stories, 30 pilgrims, and so we'll have 120 stories. I only got to 24. I think then he maybe died, or he just got lazy. But there's 24.
No, he was already cashing in. He was already cashing in. All the ladies wanted to have dalliances in the apple tree. But no, I remember it. I remember it was like the Knight's Tale, the this tale, the that tale, and I don't remember any duplication. That's why, I mean, it doesn't matter what the plan was.
Yeah, it says in the general prologue, some 30 pilgrims are introduced. According to the prologue, Chaucer's intention was to write 4 stories from the perspective of each pilgrim, 2 each on the way to and from their ultimate destination, St. Thomas Becker's shrine, making for a total of about 120 stories. Although perhaps incomplete, the Canterbury Tales is revered as one of the most important works in English literature. So take that to your cousin thing. The Canterbury Tales.
No. What I'm saying is, if a book
It is
lasts
important.
1,000
Look,
years,
Barry's thing will be.
if Barry's book
But
lasts 1,000
I
years,
told you, write down my gags. This thing's
Right.
gonna.
If that lasted 1,000 years, people would look back and go, very important document, very important historical document, teaching us so much about South African life.
Yeah. So Canterbury Tales is a collection of 24 stories that runs to over 17,000 lines, written in Middle English by Geoffrey Chaucer between 1387, so way before Shakespeare, and 1400. We're talking about 200 years before. It is widely regarded as Chaucer's magnum opus. The tales, mostly written in verse, although some are in prose, are presented as part of a storytelling contest by a group of pilgrims as they travel together from London to Canterbury to visit the shrine. The prize for the contest is a free meal at the Tabard Inn at Southwark on their return. That's lovely.
I mean, you have to tell 4 stories for that lousy prize. Anyway,
it is what I would say is why I find it significant is it has been suggested that the greatest contribution of the Canterbury Tales to English literature was the popularization of the English vernacular in the mainstream. So
there we are.
it's got a theme, even leading into my next fact. The English vernacular. Chaucer did it.
Well, I don't want to hear about your next fact because I so neatly swapped to my next fact.
Fine.
With that beautiful thing, because I want to talk about a guy by the name of J.R.R. Tolkien, who's also something of, a literary guy himself. 1,000 years from now, if his books survive, people will say elves. They were very important to the people of England in the 1950s. But my fact about him is that Tolkien invented 15 complete languages for the Lord of the Rings.
Just like.
You see what I mean? Become completely. That is a South African accent.
And the King Elf went, just like.
yeah.
Said the King Elf.
If you are an Australian, listen to that just like. It's very important you get that right. Yeah.
It's like the aliens are coming here. District 9.
Murala!
The aliens come. Hey, move here.
Okay, but yeah, he invented 15 complete languages. That's my.
That's too much. That's definitely too much.
Interesting. I may have given away too much.
I do know. Like the story I heard was he had a little bunch of crazy friends. Maybe C.S. Lewis was part of it, and they would talk about mystical places.
All right. Well, let me
improvise stories, and then a language was developed.
No. Hang on. Whoa. I don't know where you heard that because that's entirely not. I mean, it's not correct. So
the club.
J.R. Tolkien was.
By the way, your fact is false. 15 is too much. That's my final.
All right. Okay.
But tell me.
Fine. But let me sort of leap into it. J.R.R. Tolkien was a guy who, I mean, clearly very intelligent with languages. His mother Mabel introduced him to Latin, French, and German, and later he studied ancient Greek, and then Old English, Norse, Gothic, Welsh, and Finnish.
Yes, like.
He was also familiar with Danish, Dutch, Lombardic, Norwegian, Russian, and Serbian, Swedish, and older forms of Germanic and the Slavonic languages.
That's like some maniac.
So this is what he spoke, and he invented his first language at the age of 13. He'd written 2 languages by the time he was 20.
Good.
He had an absolute obsession with the idea of where do words come from, like how do they, where did they derive from? He said in a letter to Houghton Mifflin, and I'm going to quote him here, "The invention of languages is the foundation of my fictional writings. The stories were made rather to provide a world for the languages than the reverse. To me, a name comes first and the story follows. I should have preferred to have written The Lord of the Rings in Elvish." So that was his thing. He loved making up languages, and he loved the etymology of languages and how, I don't know whether etymology is the right word, but he loved the development of a language. He loved kind of seeing where a language came from and how it developed and what words it took from other words, other languages, and how it kind of expanded like that. So when it came time to write Lord of the Rings, he wrote it entirely from the perspective of, I've developed these languages. Now, who were the people that wrote these languages? And he tinkered with his languages from the age of 23 until he died. He literally changed them. He adapted them as he wrote stories about them, as he kind of introduced stuff. The languages would be adapted and changed. So it's quite difficult to know exactly how many languages he invented. You say it's nonsense, but there are sources on the internet that do say that he invented 15 languages for Lord of the Rings. Wow. I am prepared to give you your false, though. I'm going to give you the point because there's a fan site, and I owe that guy a shout out. He's called Arda Lambian. He analyzed Tolkien's invented languages, and he looked at the question of how many languages did Tolkien actually write. And according to him, the answer is anywhere between 2 and 20, depending on how permissive you are when you define a language.
I see.
Yeah. So if you consider the historical versions of the tongues that are relevant to the classic mythos of the Arda mythos in Tolkien, Tolkien developed at least 2 languages that are usable in the sense that he composed them. You're capable of having a conversation with them. They're long texts in them. He named roughly 8 to 10 other languages that have a minimum of actual substance but aren't usable in day to day. You could, if you wanted to have a very structured conversation like Klingon, you could do that. So that's somewhere between 8 to 10. He provided fragments of at least 4 other languages, and he alluded to numerous other languages that are entirely fictitious or have known vocabulary of only a few words.
Okay.
Yeah. So depending on how permissive you are, I'm prepared to give you that. But like across Tolkien fandoms, they say he invented 15 languages.
Wow.
So among these languages are Quenya, Teleran, Sindarin, Adunic, Westron, Rohirric, Kuzdul, Entish, Valerian, Black Speech. Only 2 of them are Quenya and Sindarin are developed to the point that you could have a conversation with them. And what I love, and this is because of my personal history, but what I love is that Quenya is based on Finnish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because he had a real love for Finnish. Like he said, he described the thing about discovering Finnish. He said when he found his very first Finnish grammar book, it was like entering a complete wine cellar filled with bottles of amazing wine of a kind and flavor he'd never tasted before.
Oh, wow.
He said Finnish morphology, particularly its rich inflection, gave rise to Quenya. And then his other favorite language, we've already discussed this evening, was Welsh. And
Oh, wow.
and he said that one he used the phonology and things to create Sindarin. So those are the 2 languages that you can converse in from Tolkien's books. So
Sure.
Sindarin and Quenya, which are both elven languages. But yeah, he was a fascinating guy and absolutely, like as I say, obsessed with language. So when he had these discussions with the C.S. Lewis about the Narnia books, they were both professors and they were both in English and language, but they had totally differing points of view. Tolkien was interested in real mythology and real language and how to develop that into a story, and C.S. Lewis was just like, he saw the money that Tolkien was making and was like, sweet. And he wrote the Bible as a fantasy story.
Yes.
So he basically just took the whole Bible story, and just transposed it into a fantasy setting with fantasy, and he made stupid money. And it's actually the reason the 2 of them fell out.
Oh, really?
It was because Tolkien was like, you don't respect this thing, you don't care.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're just writing this. And C.S. Lewis was like, no, my point is to bring people to the Bible story. That's what I care about.
Yeah.
And obviously, J.R.R. Tolkien was not into religion as much. So he was like, but that's not the point. The point is it's the language and the mythology and building a world and C.S. Lewis was ka-ching, baby.
What I liked about the Chronicles of Narnia, there's a whole reason why the movies franchise kind of stopped. And it's partly because of the Chronicles of Narnia, what they are. It's the order in which they're written and released is not the order in which they fit into the little puzzle. So I think the magician's nephew is actually the creation of the world.
You have to jump back and forth in the story.
So it gets a little crazy like that. And that's why the stories are so vastly different that it didn't follow nicely. I have watched the movie The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I've read all 7, but I haven't watched Prince Caspian or The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. But after that, they
but now,
stopped.
Like contrary to that, Tolkien's world, because it was based on actual mythology and actual language and actual,
and a continued story.
There are people that will be able to tell you, the deep history of this, the mythology of his world, and the development of the languages. Because when you try and research this thing, it's quite funny because they have to give you a history of how the languages developed in Middle Earth. Well, it's not called Middle Earth at the point where the languages developed, but they have to talk about in J.R.R. Tolkien's books how these languages developed, and then they have to tell you the story of how he wrote them in the real world, because it's this kind of crossed over, and it's so interesting. They've each got their own developmental story because he was so into it. He was so
that's cool.
Yeah, so interested in language.
So there's a lot of behind the author, and a lot of like foundation. The books are really built on a foundation of other
and other mythology. The names of the characters in Lord of the Rings come from ancient mythology.
Sure.
He was really, and as I say, up to the day that he died, he was still tinkering with his languages and still adding stuff. And it was a thing that he started doing as a child. So it became the theme of his life, and the book was like an incidental benefit to this strange language obsession.
And then you had
Yeah.
the 4 children in the Chronicles of Narnia, in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Paul, Jane,
That's
Sally,
right.
and Peter.
No, he literally fell like C.S. Lewis and him. C.S. Lewis and him. They were good friends, and they fell out because they had this totally different like. He just couldn't understand C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis was like, "Yeah, I have fucking money, internet. Also, I'm teaching people about the Bible. It's fucking great." And Tolkien was, "Fucking, this is not what this is about." Yeah, exactly.
What is that? It's Sardinian. It means fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's some sources online that say that Tolkien spoke 35 languages, which I mean, I can't find any information for. The ones I listed are the ones I know he spoke and the ones he was kind of interested in. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting, potentially crazy motherfucker.
I love it.
Yeah.
I must confess, I've only ever done The Hobbit.
Oh my God.
But
Listen,
I'll
listen.
do it. I'll do it. I'm gonna
Book-
get into it.
Listen,
Gonna get
the Return of the King. It's a
Yeah.
difficult go because a lot of it is just
I believe there's a lot
Frodo
of
and
walking
Sam.
through
Yeah, it's
mountains.
Frodo and Sam
Fine.
walking a lot.
I like walking.
I read them all. I was in standard 5, which is grade 7 now.
Wow. And you slogged through, eh?
No, I got pneumonia.
Oh,
I
shame.
got pneumonia and I was off school for like 3 weeks.
Okay.
And I read most of them in the 3
Wow.
weeks. But I remember book 3 being like, whew, sure, you're just walking, right? You're just fucking walking. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I don't think people these days are equipped with the
the
concentration. Yeah,
You
the
gotta
ability.
push on.
Also, not only that, but also the lack of distraction
Mm.
that reading that book took. You know, like having a phone or TV
Mm.
there with. We had to wait to specific hours of the day to watch shows. You know,
Mhm.
watch TV
Oh,
shows.
yeah.
TV wasn't on all the time. unless you-
Appointment viewing, man.
yeah, you got to watch very marked commercials for most of the day. So yeah, you actually had plenty of time to read undistracted.
Mm.
So I'd imagine that even getting through the director's cut movies is a difficult one these days. but yeah, like yeah, it's worth reading. It's really good. Just skip all the Tom Bombadil shit. This is again, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you're not going to attack me. But the Tom Bombadil shit in the first book is just skip that. Carry on.
Oh man, I loved your J.R. Tolkien one, but I'm gonna go back to the previous one where I was talking about the vernacular of English.
Yes.
But someone who is the father of sort of the vernacular of Italian, Dante. I talk about Dante. a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
You're
hey, listen. You
you're the
talk about Dante
guillotine
like I
guy.
talk about guillotining. That's
Yeah.
fine. That's good.
He it was actually a translation because the first version was in Latin of La Commedia, the Divine Comedy. So it's a translation from Latin into Italian.
Oh, you're saying this is a real fact.
Yeah, there's a fact. Yeah.
I haven't been keeping careful track, but I don't believe you've used up your lie yet. And I would like to say that you're using up your lie. Who's going to write a book in Latin? That's madness.
Oh no. This,
No, it's madness, Ryan. It's madness.
This was around like 12.
No, Ryan, my answer is you're lying, and that's my final answer. I'm going to
Okay,
do what you did to
wanna
me with the Tolkien
You
one.
want to say I'm lying?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I want to say it was written in 1295. Okay.
Still a liar, a goddamn liar.
And what I can tell you is you're right. It was a lie. He's a hero in Italy because of the Italian vernacular. It's because of Dante that we've got words like spaghetti arrabbiata.
No, genuinely.
Italian. He was the father of the Italian language. It was all Latin, and he wrote La Commedia, published in Italian. Dante is known for establishing the use of the vernacular in literature in a time when most poetry was written in Latin, which was accessible only to educated readers. His Duvalgeri Eloquentia on eloquence in the vernacular was one of the first scholarly defenses of the vernacular. He uses the Florentine dialect for works such as The New Life and Divine Comedy. helped establish the
That
modern
must have been
day
like shooting
standardized
fish in a
Italian
barrel.
language.
Can you imagine? No one else is writing a book in the language that everyone speaks.
So
you must be like,
yeah,
here is this fucking cash cow right here. Like it's
these guys, the guy, these are the shit that they speak is bullshit. These guys.
You saying you wrote it for the mafia in a 1920s American movie? Is that what you?
So, but listen to this impact of his work. So, what did I get up to? Florentine dialect. Modern day use of the Italian language. By writing his poem in the Italian vernacular rather than in Latin, Dante influenced the course of literary development, making Italian the literary language in Western Europe for several centuries.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there
Dante's
you go.
the dude. I go to his grave as a pilgrimage.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
I mean,
he's a
obviously
guy.
you would.
I love him. Easy. So, mwah.
Yeah, I'll just go to Paris to go see where they guillotined people. It's the difference between you and I, right?
Pilgrimage. I'm finally here.
If you pay €100, you can guillotine an immigrant. I'm doing it.
That's like he's launching a sails, like a sailorman.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, no. It does seem to be a theme. You've got a few, though. You've got a few themes.
Yes.
Alexander the Great, the other one.
Alexander, Dante, maybe the Beatles here and there.
Yeah.
80s pop. Tom, love Tom.
Are we on to multiple choice?
We are.
My multiple choice is so simple.
So is mine.
So simple. It's really like it's an easy one. Like, subscribe, share.
Yes. And all of three of those.
Yeah.
At the same time.
All right, here's mine. Which of these English words, all letters written in the lowercase, is not an ambigram? So you need to know what an ambigram is. But you can maybe work it out based on this. Okay. Which of these English words, all the letters written in the lowercase, is not an ambigram? 1, sons. 2, dollop. 3, swims. 4, yoga. I love this note. That's great. I
I thought, okay, I'm going to yell all 4. That'll give me a clue. Hurdle 4. No clue. Sons, dollop, yoga, and
swims.
Ambigram. Ambi 2.
Right.
Gram.
I mean, that's
measurement. Also... 2, a measurement of 2. So maybe that it came from 2 words. Sons, dollop, yoga. Oh, maybe it's like...
And swims.
Oh, my word.
No, you see, you can
maybe
work
it's
it
like
out.
a yoga rubber dabba.
I think you can work it out. Yeah,
they just took the first 2 syllables, yoga. But swims is 1 syllable. Dollop. Swims, dollop, yoga.
Sun's also 1 syllable, yeah.
Bugger. Which is not an ambigram. Okay, well, you got dollop, yoga, sons, and swim. Oh, it's not that. Okay, I'll say swims is the odd one out. So sons, for some reason, maybe comes from a longer word than sons, but swims is just swims, man. It just swims.
Okay, so I'm not going to do the
What's
thing.
What's an ambigram?
I'm not going to do the thing where I break this down. Ambigram is a word that can be read the same if seen from a different angle. So, like Ohio. If you look at the word Ohio in capitals sideways, right, it's O-H-I.
Yes.
And O. And if you tip it vertically, the H becomes the I, and the I becomes the H, and so you read it the same way, right? So that's why I had to specifically say letters written in the lower case. In this case, all of the words are flipped 180 degrees, so they're all upside down. So if you look at all of these words upside down, they all say exactly the same thing. Sons, dollop, swims are all ambigrams. Yoga is the false one. So there you are. If you take them all in the lower case, you flip them upside down, they look exactly the same.
Oh, that's funny.
and actually, I mean, it's one of these things where quite often they develop calligraphy that can make some words look like ambigrams that aren't necessarily ambigrams. But yeah, in this case, if you take any kind of writing in the lower case and you flip it 180 degrees, all of those 3 words will be ambigrams, but yoga will not.
Oh, wow.
There you are.
That's a lovely multiple choice question. Mine is, as you know, the English, the bastards, they stole a lot of things from other countries.
Aye, they did.
And they stole...
They're all in the British Museum.
Yeah, and they stole a lot of words. Which of these phrases or words was stolen from India.
Okay.
Hoi polloi, bungalow, hullabaloo, fracas. One of them was stolen from India. Hoi polloi, bungalow, hullabaloo, fracas.
My word, this is difficult. So I'm gonna say the fracas. Fracas is French, I'm guessing, or hoi polloi. I'm more Polynesian, I would guess, if I was, bungalow. When you first read them, I was like, it's bungalow. It's got to be bungalow. But what was the other one? The other one was?
Hullabaloo.
You know why I'm leaning towards hullabaloo? It's literally a Rudyard Kipling thing. It's literally the name of the bear, right? It's Baloo, right? Like it's Baloo. I'm going with hullabaloo. Literally based on Rudyard Kipling. Did you get me?
The answer is bungalow.
Oh! Oh my word! Oh my word!
So hoi polloi actually just comes from Greek. It means many. Hoi polloi, many.
Oh yes, right.
but it's come to not the many, also more the masses.
Yeah, right.
The hoi polloi. The hoi polloi. Hullabaloo is a bit of probably a nonsense word, maybe Scottish, but also maybe the hunting. Hello! And then they shout back, Baloo! Make sure they don't shoot the do. Hello, Baloo! I think there's a bit of a tradition there. Hullabaloo. Fracas is indeed French. Very nice. Which means a raucous noise. And bungalow is Bengali. Indeed.
Literally, like as you read it, I was like, it's a bungalow. I should just stick with the thing rather than let my brain get in the way.
It's that whole are you sure you don't want to change your mind? It's that whole
it's that game theory, right? Yeah, game theory. Anyway, this was great.
Languages.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Yes, and goeienaand en
tot ziens.
Salahantle. That's Sutu.
Nice.
Nice, eh?
Nice. Good.
And Salagatle. Zulu, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Since hey?
Hola!
Anyway.
Soy Dora!
Bye. Join us next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.